So I think we'll get started. Welcome everybody. My name is Dan Smith. I'm the director of the Africa Initiative at the Watson Institute. And I'm glad to see all of you here. We have a series of other events coming up later in the semester. So if there are any of you, I know there are probably some of you are here, not on the listserv for the Africa Initiative. So if you're interested in being on the listserv, you can email me or just come see me afterwards and I'll write down your email address and I'll add you to the listserv. We're delighted today to have Victor Alabi, our own Victor Alabi here to give a talk about the semiotics of Yoruba clothing. I see all the diacritics and his surname there. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it properly. There are people in the room who probably in his class who will be able to pronounce it better than I am. But Victor comes to us from Indiana University where he got his Ph.D. in African linguistics and culture. He taught there for a number of years, and starting this fall he began teaching, as some of you obviously know because you're in the class, started teaching Yoruba. We're glad that he's going to stay on and teach again next year, and many of us hope for much longer than that. And he's going to be, I'm going to keep the introduction brief because we want to have time for him to speak and then time for questions. We have an hour and a half. We'll see how long that goes. I think Victor's going to talk for 45 minutes or so. And then there'll be plenty of times for questions and discussion. And then we have a reception up on the second floor there afterwards. So anyone who wants to join us, there will be wine and cheese, I think cheese, wine and cheese, something to nibble on afterwards. So feel free to join us upstairs afterwards. In the meantime, welcome Victor.
Thanks so much. So in addition to what Dr. Smith said, I teach Yoruba. I also teach a class this semester called Language and Film Discourse. My students are here. Thanks for coming. Last semester I taught a class, Identity and Languages in Africa. So I'll be teaching it again in the fall, next fall. So look out for it. Yeah, so I have some people joining on Zoom because they were like, oh, I have to join. I know Faye said she'll be joining, but I'm not sure if she's there. Some of us know Faye, but. So this is my colleague. She teaches Yoruba at Howard University. So she is a professor at Howard. So yeah.
Hello. How are you?
Okay, so we're talking about the semiotics of Yoruba clothing. I'll be, because I teach Yoruba, so I might have to repeat some words just so you get more connected with Yoruba today. So let's get started. So here's a map of Africa. Yoruba is spoken in Nigeria, predominantly in Nigeria. And Yoruba is also spoken in some parts of West Africa, some countries in West Africa, Ghana, Togo, Benin Republic, and as far as Cuba, Brazil, Trinidad and Tobago. And by the way, my class will be having a film screening, excuse me, on next Friday. That's March 10. So we're watching a Yoruba film. So you're all invited because it's more about Yoruba in West Africa and in the Caribbean. So it's coming up on Spin B201 at 6 p.m. next Friday. So if you're available, please join us. The flyer will be out on the CLS newsletter by next week. So, so here's a map of Nigeria. So Nigeria is spoken predominantly in the southwestern part. So you can see the gray color there. And so Nigeria was divided into 6 geopolitical zones in the 1990s. So we have different zones where different languages and different ethnic groups are available. So here is the Yoruba speaking part. So, so of course, some neighboring states like the Kwara, Kogi, you also have Yoruba speakers. Actually, you have Yoruba speakers all over the world. I mean, all over Nigeria, all over Africa. But I'm talking about the predominant area where you find more people. So, like my dad is, I grew up in Kwara State, the southern part of Kwara State. My mom is from Oshun. So here. So I grew up here. I lived in Oyo for like 2 years. I lived in Lagos for some months, or for a year. So I've been in different parts in Yoruba land, and different dialects are spoken. So, for example, you could have people speaking in dialects I cannot understand, Yoruba dialects, because I just can't understand. There are so many dialects, about over 20 dialects of the Yoruba language. So, let's talk a little bit about proverbs. So in Yoruba culture, we use proverbs a lot. Proverbs are like the horse he said that Owileshin or Biorobas or Owilafinwa. Proverbs are like the horse of war. Sometimes when you don't know what to say, use a proverb. It captures everything you're trying to say. So here's a proverb on clothing. It says, Omo ewa kan osi, Omo aṣọ ni nbẹ. So in Yoruba culture, it's not so much about the beauty, it's about your dressing. So like, the proverb that says like this, the way you are dressed, you are dressed. So the clothing is very important in Yoruba culture, Yoruba situation. So I'll talk a little bit about semiotics. I know that this might be a little bit like, oh, what's this? But I'll just simplify it to make it, because I'll be applying it to the talk. So semiotics is basically the study of signs. So there are so many signs around us. Like, for example, here is a sign. I don't know if some of you know what it means. So what does what this means? Okay, yeah, so Dr. Smith?
That's the Nigerian flag.
Aha, so it's a sign on its own. It means something. So something that can be interpreted, what does this mean? There's green, there's white. It also means something. Green means something, white means something. So there are two figures, or there are two scholars that talk about semiotics, Ferdinand de Saussure and Charles Peirce. But my focus is on Saussure's position about the signifier and the signifier. So the signifier can be your word, figures, anything you see or anything you can feel. But the signified is the interpretation. What does it mean? What does it mean? So, and then these scholars divided semiotics into icons, symbols, and index. So the icon just talks of a representation. So for example, I'll show you later in the talk, like some hearts, actually are icons for people. Once you see the heart, the person, is associated with a particular person. So it represents someone. And then the index is the cause and effect. Like when you see smoke, fire is there. So in Yoruba clothing, if someone is dressed in a way, you can say, oh, you're married. The person doesn't need to tell you, immediately. And then symbols. So in some festivals, red signifies something, white signifies. So if you're going for a festival, you have to go in white clothing because the deities of the festival or the Yoruba gods want you to dress in this particular way. So those issues are important, and I'll be talking about them. So yeah, I talk about the signifier and the signifier. So let me go straight to different clothing. So we have Asho Korin. So we have men's clothing. Okay. So because clothing in Yoruba, you have to talk about the issue of gender in talking about clothing. So Asho Korin. So we have what we call buba. So everybody say buba.
Buba.
Okay. So buba is what some of you may call your shirt. I've seen people say, oh, I like a shirt. I'm like, what? This is not a shirt. I mean, it's just buba, simple. Because the shirt is a shirt. I know what that means. So buba, and then we have shokoto. Everybody, shokoto. Okay, so buba and shokoto. So this is just an example of buba and shokoto. So I'll be talking about the name of the clothing and the material. So there are two different things now. There are two different things when we talk about the clothing. Okay. So this is another example. Now, take note. When someone dresses like this, it could be maybe you're going out to meet your friend, you're going to your workplace, or you just want to you're going to the gym or something. So these are for casual situations. But then there's something called agbada. Everybody, agbada. So this is what you put on this. So I have an example here. I'll talk about this material shortly. But this just by itself is agbada. So if I have it on, it actually means that I'm having an event and I'm at the center of the event. For example, I have maybe a birthday party, or maybe it's my wedding. Actually, I wore this for my wedding. So, or maybe you have a baby, you are doing a naming ceremony. So you are the focus, the event, they know you are the one celebrating something. But if you are actually going there as a visitor, you can just go, this is okay. So again, if you go to an event and you find someone wearing this plus what I have, then oh, maybe this person is the celebrant or the groom or even the parents. Because the parents are also, the family are the ones actually doing the celebration, really. So the dad can also dress in this agbada. Okay? There are different types, but I'll talk about this shortly. This particular type, the one in pink, the agbada. Okay. And there's also barrier. So everybody, barrier. So that is different. It's not agbada. It's a different. It's So this is an example of barrier. You probably notice. So you don't wear this on this. You just wear this alone. Aha. So this is barrier. Usually you find this barrier in suburban areas. You know, like maybe chiefs or kings, suburban areas. But you find Agbada everywhere. Urban, suburban, everywhere. But you find this in suburban areas, usually by chiefs of different towns and cities in Yoruba culture. So this is barrier. So you have it with Shokoto. And then you have, I'll talk about the hat shortly. So barrier. Now we have different kinds of, what do you call hats? So we have different types. I have one, so I'm wondering who can guess. The one I have here, which one do you think is?
Corey.
Are you sure? Are you sure? Aha, excellent. So there are different types. And some people actually, some prominent people like maybe chiefs or politicians actually, I'll talk about that shortly, they actually sometimes just choose one. And once you see them, you know, oh, this is maybe the vice president. Oh, he's always in this particular one. So assuming I'm a politician and I'm always wearing this, I will probably just stick to this. Because it's a way of like identity. Oh, he always dresses this way as a politician. Just to show that, you know, to show some identity. So let's look at women's clothing. Asho bearing. Okay, so we have this. We have buba, the same buba, what you call maybe the blouse. And we have iro, everybody iro. So iro is like the wrapper, or like it's healed and they just tie, you know. And then we have iboron, everybody iboron. So I just use this as an example of iboron. So something like this, iboron. Now if you have this, again, it shows you are the one at the center of an event. You maybe having your wedding, your birthday ceremony, your birthday party, and so on. And the gele, I'll talk about the gele as well. Gele, everybody gele.
Gele.
So this is, so if you're dressing in this, you're probably just attending someone's, maybe your friend's birthday. So this is okay for like casual dressing, but the person celebrating is usually in this. So there's a difference. So when you go to an event, you're like, oh, congratulations, you know. Once you meet people, you know probably they are the ones celebrating something, maybe birthday party or something. So, but then you could just have gele, buba, and iro, for just general outing. Maybe you're going to see your friend. This is okay. So that tells you something. Again, now let's look at Ibiao weddings, Yoruba weddings. Okay? So I'll just show you some random pictures of this, and then we'll talk about Ashofi, which is something very important we have to talk about. So Ashofi. So these are just pictures of. So you probably notice, let me see if probably you notice one or two things. Different colors, matching colors, the same. Like this, you find blue. And then you have this. So I'll talk about this material now. I'll talk about the material. So this, if you notice, I'll talk about this shortly. If you notice this, after the talk, you can actually come and feel it there. So this, these are made by, they are not the same materials. These two, you can probably feel this after the talk. Now this is called Ashofi. The material. Ofi. Everybody, Ofi.
Ofi.
So this Ashofi is, I'll show you a video briefly of how it is made and one or two things about it. But it is, it's very expensive, and it is not something you wear just to your friend's house, or it's basically for an event. So you are celebrating maybe your birthday, you wear this, or wedding especially, you have to. It's compulsory. If you're doing a wedding, you have to have something Ashofi. Maybe your buba, you have to, or your fila, you have to. So in this situation, again, I'll talk about the beats shortly, but I'll play this video, and then we'll watch and see a little bit about Ashofi. It's kind of took some time, but just to have an idea of Ashofi. And of course, like culture is dynamic, so you find the change in the current dispensation. So let's talk about another context, the Afinoba or the King's Palace. So in Yoruba culture, you have we have different communities. So I mean, in Nigeria we have governors, we have a president, vice president, and then we have what you people call mayor. We have a local government chairman, a local government chairwoman. So, but then we have kings who are in charge of different communities. So you could have a state where you have maybe like 10 different kings in different communities, like having a king of maybe Cranston or king of Providence or king of Warwick or something similar. So, but we have the Ooni of Ife, who is regarded as the first-class king in Yoruba culture. So here's a picture. So it's assumed or believed that Ife is the cradle of civilization, is where everybody comes from. So here's the king. You can see the beads, Ileke. Ileke Orun. So Ileke, you find Ileke here. There is no, I mean, whenever a king cannot go out without having Ileke, the necklace or the beads on the neck and on the hands. It's not possible. In fact, if you want to relieve someone of their jobs as a chief, the best thing is to remove the beads. That's it. You don't need letters of, I'll show you an example. You don't need any letter. You just, once you're a chief or you're a king, whenever you go out, you must have your beads on the hands, neck, at all times. So, and then, again, semiotics will tell us that you can see the beads here, the same person. Now, if you have like very important events, you add more. But then, so the king is Olori, the queen, they are in a church to do like a naming ceremony. So that may not be, but for this event you can find, because this is a very big or a bigger event. So the more, the bigger the event, the more the beads generally. And then here is the king of another town or your town. So you find the beads. I mean, it's compulsory. You have to. And then you notice the kind of cap or filler it has is like one of the filler, Abiti Aja, if you remember our filler, different types. Now, take a look at, so here is a movie. I just have a screenshot. So these chiefs actually did one or two things, that was annoying to the king. So the king just said, you know what, get me your beads, And then, relieved of their jobs. No more chiefs. As simple as that. And then you can see this picture, this man is like, hey, I've lost my, so the beads are off. So he walks out and he's like, of course it's a shameful thing. Everyone's like, what, where are you've been relieved of what a pity. So that is fine now. So the king was like, after 6 months, I will review your case, and know what to do about your situation. So, and later in the movie, when the king actually eventually calls the chief, they were like, people were making fun of us. Oh, look at him, his beads are not with him, or he's no longer a chief. So it shows that the beads actually perform semiotic functions. They are not just for like wearing it just for wearing wearing sake. So again, let's look at some of these materials. We have adire. So can you say adire?
Adire.
Lace. I probably know what that means. And then ashofi. So this is ashofi, and what I have is this, the one in the middle, the lace. What I have is lace, and this is ashofi. So don't forget, this ashofi is so important that you can't have any event without wearing it. It's probably the most important type of Yoruba clothing. And then we have other types. We have Ankara, you probably have this before. Ankara, and then here's the same adire, probably called tie and dye. Wondering if you know. And then this is called senator. So, I mean, the same senator, So here's an example. So I have one example. So there was a time in Nigeria where senators actually used to wear this, So it was like, this like senators love this, so it was just called senator. So the name came from senators who love it. But now things have changed, so they're probably wearing something different. Okay, so I want to talk about clothing as well, and clothing and what people, like I'll talk about the motifs shortly, but then I'll talk about words that are inscribed or printed on Yoruba clothing. So generally, I know in East Africa something similar they have something similar. When Yoruba culture, like people usually have like proverbs or very important words printed on clothing. So I'm wondering if you can see this, but I actually wrote it here. It says, "Enya fela mo, sherere." So it's just a way of like encouraging you, do good, do what is right. So when you buy this and you wear it, sometimes when you ask the tailor to sew, you actually like this, you make this like something people can see. Like maybe somewhere here, at the edge, and you're like, oh, everybody's like, oh, Enya molafe, share it, do good. So it kind of encourages, and you can actually use it to pass a message. Maybe you have a friend, that you feel, oh, my friend, I know you wait, oh, we are friends, do good. So once you read it, you're like, oh, you have to keep doing good as friends. So you have a lot of these examples where you have proverbs printed, and people buy this for specific purpose. Like, okay, if I have like 2 or 3 of these, maybe we had like fallout or we are like quarreling, I can wear it and say, oh, my friend, I came to say hi. And then when you're like, oh, okay, that's true, we need to be friends, we should be, one. So you find that a lot in different clothing. So this is another example. And then I'll talk briefly about the motifs. So Ariel and Kale will talk about different motifs that are printed on this adire. Different, so you find some of them like, snail, birds, and so on. And then, there are so many, there are more than 40 examples. So I'll talk about clothes as icons. So when we talk about icons, we're just talking about something representing something else. So here's the Vice President of Nigeria. His current Vice President of Nigeria is a Yoruba person. Most of his dressing are in this form. He doesn't wear this kind of filler. So once you see this picture without the face, once you have the heart without his picture, it's the one. I'm wondering if you have something similar. You've probably seen something similar. So he's always dressing in this. So it's kind of, it's a way of like identity. This is who I am and this is how I dress. So Yoruba, especially politicians do this a lot, or maybe religious leaders or leaders in different situations. Now, here is the man who just won the election in Nigeria. If you're following Nigerian politics, he won the election. I'm not trying to promote it, I'm not a politician. But I'm just fascinated by his hat. He's been doing this. He was governor of Lagos State some years ago. And since I was born, since I knew him, he's always with this kind of hat, with this design. Different colors, different hats, different everything, but with this design. Like, when he was running for election, when he was running for the office of president, people started wearing clothes and hats with this drawing or this, just to show solidarity, like we support you. So if I was to see this hat and his glasses, if you just have the picture of his hat and glasses, oh, that is him, So it's a way of saying, okay, this politician, this is the way. He will never wear anything like this with another design. No, it's always, if you check online, check all his pictures, you won't find any other. It's the way politicians do. So, yeah, especially Yoruba politicians. So, and then this is his wife, the wife of the person who just won the election. Again, you can see the pattern. So I'll talk briefly about Caleb, so I don't forget. So, so you can see the pattern. She's always like in these different clothing, different colors, but in this format. So you usually won't find her putting like Iboron here. There's a way politicians or wives of politicians dress that okay, this is them. So if you remove this and you just have this gele and something like this, oh, it is this person. It's a way of like saying, oh, she's the one. So I'll talk briefly about gele. So in Yoruba culture, there's a way you tie gele to show that you are young, you are maybe a teenager, and you are an adult. So generally, when you tie gele, so there are different ways. I know many people spend hours trying to do this. But if you tie it and like you try to do it in this way, you do it for little children, like maybe 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5, 6, and so on. It actually shows that they own the future. So you let this place face, like they own the future, And then if you are maybe a teenager, it has to be by the side. You have to tie it and the finishing, sorry, I'm not tying, I'm not doing a good job. But it has to be by the side, which means we are the ones, this is our time, okay? And then once it's like this, you tie it, it's like you are an adult, you've seen everything, Yeah. So that's the fact. So I mean, this you can see the way she's. I mean, you won't see the finishing. I don't know if that's. It's kind of clear, but you won't see because it's at the back. So she's an adult, so you won't see. So she won't tie it and make it turn, face, So it's a pattern. So these things tell you a lot of things about what clothing means. So this is another former governor of Ogun State. He's always with this kind of hat. Always. He will never wear something like this. Never. So politicians just decide to choose one, and then so if you get a picture of just this, and maybe nothing, you say, oh, I know it's the governor. It's always dressing it that way. So you can use the hat to represent the governor, and just send your message. So these are kind of like they're like icons, like a way of representing them. So let's talk about symbols, like clothing as symbols. So in Yoruba culture, we have many festivals. I'll show you some, and these festivals are also like observed in Cuba, Trinidad and Tobago, Brazil, and different parts of the Caribbean. So this is Osun Osogbo. Is a huge festival. It's actually the Osun Osogbo Grove is actually one of the UNESCO World Heritage Centers. Recognized by UNESCO. If you check online, it's one of them. So the grove is in Osun State, where I said my mom is from, Osun State. So the festival is done every August, every year. So the dressing is always white. You can't go to the Osun Festival and wear any other color. Like, what? What are you doing here? So if you are going to show solidarity or you're part of the deities, you must be in white color. Everything. White color. Okay, so I'll show you just a bit, just like few seconds or few minutes video of the festival. So this was in 2015. So, this kind of festival brings everybody. People travel from America, I've watched videos of people like, oh, I'm from Maryland, I had to travel to be part of this festival. So, for the first time, you have to dress white. Again, we have another festival called Shango Festival. So, Shango was one of the kings of Oyo Empire. That was many years ago. So to celebrate Shango, you have to dress in red color. You can't go to Shango Festival and dress in white. It's like, wow, what are you doing here? So you have to. So it's a way of it's a symbol for the deities, for those who just attend. It's like there's an event. You have to dress in this color just to show that you are part of the ceremony or the festival. You don't want to act as if you are out. You want to be included. You don't want to be excluded. So for Shango Festival, red color. You have to. So again, we have other festivals like Odun or Lojo. So this is celebrated in Osun State. The Oni of Ife, the one I showed you, the king of Ife, is the one there, the left picture. So Odun Lojo too, you have to dress in white. And then there is Eyo Festival. I'm wondering if you've heard about it. It's celebrated in Lagos. Eyo Festival. So it's you dress. So these are performance or masquerade performance, but you dress in white, but there's a way they dress with their hats, the big hats, different colors, just so colorful. Different groups come and dance, but they are all in white color, but with different colors, different designs or on their hats. Yeah, so to conclude. So, I've talked about this. So Yoruba performs both social and semiotic functions. And in the current dispensation, so there are different kinds of clothing, like clothing at home. The clothing you have at home may not be the same you wear, like you're going for an event. So we have Ashra Iwoyile, the third bullet. Iwole. So materials like Ankara, Adire could be one, but Ashra Ofi is usually for an important event. Ashra Ofi is the one I talked about. So again, wearing beads is very important. Beads. We have different colors, for your hands, for your neck. This actually can indicate. But I know right now, there are people who just buy beads and wear them. It's okay. But if you're a chief, you have to have it on like every time. But I can decide to go out today, have beads, and tomorrow I don't feel like. Because I'm not a chief, I don't need to. But if you're a king or you're a chief, you have to, anytime you step out of your house, or even at home, you have to have your beads on. So it's a way of, it's actually symbolizes royalty in Yoruba culture, having your beads as a king, as a chief. Yeah, so that's my talk. Thank you.
So we have lots of time for questions. You okay fielding your own questions?
Sure. Questions for me?
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
The one about I think it was the slide after the Ankara maybe, but I'm not sure. It was the one about the animals on the clothing.
Yeah.
I was wondering if they represented something or if it's just for design.
Yeah, so in Yoruba culture, animals represent things, but I know this is probably just for design, because animals have positive and negative connotations in Yoruba culture. So, if you have some of them, if you go with the negative connotation, you won't buy the clothes. So, I think it's just for artwork, for art's sake, for just to design. But in this case, it won't really matter if it might be because in Yoruba culture, some animals have positive and negative, so it won't really apply. But I know it's just for design, just for art's sake.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. This was very educational. I wonder, how the men are also wearing bright colors. I know in some cultures, men are not. It's like a taboo for men to wear red or green or orange. At least where I come from.
Okay.
So I wonder if in Yoruba culture there's a line dividing colors for men and
Not really. I don't know, maybe this is universal, but I don't know. Do men wear pink colors? Okay, maybe. I know there are some colors, but
Men
they are
comfortable with their masculinity wear pink.
there's some of these things are not written laws. But if you wear pink as a man, you say, well, that's change your clothes, But there's really no law that says you can't. If you wear it, it's fine. If that's all you have, what can you do? Well, there's no strict because for the festivals, everybody will wear red, bright colors, men and women. So in that case, it won't really matter. But I don't think it's a huge issue. When we talk about the colors, maybe for bright colors or dark colors, yeah.
Thank you. And I have one more question.
Yeah.
I know you're talking about the beads. I wonder what's the significance of those beads? Where does that come from? That as a politician you have to wear those beads? What's the story behind it?
I don't know the story. Our forefathers are responsible for that. But the truth is, for kings, you have to have your beads on every time. But if you're a politician like a president, vice president, you don't need to. And then I notice now that if you have weddings, the groom and the bride, they usually also have the beads, just for more just to adorn, and look more beautiful and all that. But I've not done a study to find out where it's coming from and the significance. And I know I didn't talk about this, but for the beads, the colors also matter. So usually you notice I have red colors for the beads. You have that for kings and queens, and even if you're a prince or princess, maybe your dad is a king, you have to have it on your hands and your neck. And then you have you want to?
I can bring.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, because I asked him to bring stuff. Yeah, so there are different colors. There is a white color as well. So he told me. So he has one on his hand.
I have wearing one.
So this. So this. After the talk, you can feel it. So the red one, and it depends on, I said, the event. You could have 10 or 20 of these, or even 50, as many as possible. And then you have this ball for the for traditional Yoruba traditional medicine men. They also have their own. I think they wear the white. I'm not sure, but I know they have their color. They have, which is different, which is not the same with this. So I think there are 2 or 3 colors of these beads, but the red one is the most common. I will find more of that are more available. So people wear them for beauty, maybe you have an event, but after the event you are done. But for the king, for the prince, for the queen, for the princess, it has to be on every time. You have to have it on you every time. Yeah, but for the origin, I've not done the study like to find out like where it's coming from, how how come, what are they like? Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Please go.
I was just going to ask a question through you to him. Since you have those, are you a prince? Or
Well, I mean, like my grandfathers were chiefs, so like my mom had them because like she got them from her father, but I'm not really. I'm only very very distantly related to royalty. So
so these princes and these kings and queens, is it hereditary? So it didn't go to your generation any longer, or?
it's because Yoruba monarchy is like very decentralized and differs vastly compared to like different towns. So like in some cases, because it was mostly descended from my mother, they sometimes don't choose people who come from sometimes they do, it just depends on the kingdom. But just as like unfortunately it didn't come to my side, so yeah.
So if you go back home, are you expected to wear that with your?
During a traditional festival, perhaps, but like not really like every day. So yeah.
Yeah, so I mean the issue of like the king situation in Yoruba culture is like is not. So for example, we have like royal families. So assuming everybody on this table you are from royal families. So if the king comes from my family this time, and the king grows up to 100 years old and dies, we go to the next family. Go to the next family, next family, next family. So my children may not become king because they are still rotating, but they're also like princes and princesses. So if I have a daughter and she gets married, the child may not be the heir to the throne in the future because we are still going round in each of the families, but they're also kind of related to a king or a chief, so they probably could have. But I don't think things are changing, and people might feel, oh, you know what, I'm tired, Yeah. But if you're a king, or a prince incumbent, you have to have this every time.
Yeah, I want to talk about my experience from Cuba in relation with the beats and religion. Yeah, because for me it's so important, everything, thank you so much for everything that you are talking. But for example, when you was talking about Oshun and Shango festival, yeah, in Cuba, the person, we have a religion from the Yoruba people in Cuba, that is Afro-Cuban, and it's Santeria or Regla de Osha. And yeah, the person who is Omo or son of Oshun dress on yellow in Cuba. Yeah, or if it is son of Shango or daughter dress on red. And he has his own or her own beads, and they must to use the beads every time. I saw that you have
I have
another one.
Ifad priest. So my grandfather was an Ifad priest. So
Ifa. Okay.
Yeah, Ifad. So everyone in I guess all the men in my family are initiated into Ifad. So I have these beads.
Yeah. And when you start to staying in this religious group, you must to use the white dress just 1 year because you are like a child and you are growing up inside of the religion, and you must to use the white. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Victor. This is very exciting for me. So you showed where at the beginning, the brown and then the green. Like that's the dress, the clothes that you have right there.
Okay, this one. Yeah.
So if you show me the brown one,
Yeah.
the front of the brown one, and if you show me the front of the green one, can you help me differentiate between those two? Because you said this is very different from the other.
Yes.
How are they different?
Okay. Awesome.
Besides one's green and one's brown.
Yeah, so the design is different, and then so you should take a look.
Yeah, it's just.
So this is just so for example, there are no pockets here.
Okay.
I mean, usually, and then you have to wear this on. You can't wear this. You can't just have like a singlet and wear this. Like you You won't do that, but you can do that for that. And then let me show you this. So for this, it's always designed in this way to have two pockets here.
Oh, okay.
So I can actually, yeah, and you can just wear this on your singlet. You don't need to wear this and put this on. I mean, you don't do that, even if it's the same color.
What about the cut at the neck? Does that matter?
So it yes, and then the design is usually not as elaborate as
Okay.
this.
Yep.
Yeah, because and then take notes. You have just the opening here, but for this one it's down. So they're kind of different.
Yep.
It's always in this form. Actually, with this, I mean, this is always with this one. This I don't know what it's called, but this design, like X or something. I mean, there are many
It
here. Like
always has the X.
this, yes, always. This will
Cross,
always
yeah.
have. Yeah, I don't know if it's a cross. I don't know. Yeah. So it will always have this. But most importantly, you wear this on maybe your singlet or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but you have to wear this on this. Yeah. So it's. There are so many others actually. There are like. There are like 20 different types. These are just two.
Yeah.
Probably the most like the two common ones of it, but there are so many others. Yeah. Yeah. So I did talk about this. So this is batik. It's also another type. You probably have heard of batik. Batik, yeah. So this is batik. It's completely different from this, for example. So, I mean, people do all kinds of designs, like different people drumming, people doing all kinds of things, maps and all that. You find this. So this is batik. So it's different from this, like they call senator.
And this student has lace.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see you. I mean, yeah, it's
Take your photo.
Oh, take my And then, yeah, I didn't talk about this. I talked about the gele, this one. But I didn't talk about this. So in Yoruba culture, ideally when you have this towards your left, it's a sign that you are married. Because ideally when you go to an event, your wife is seated by your left side.
This guy's open.
No, he's still single. He's still single. So you have it on your left, it actually shows that you are married. So you see, your wife is sitting very like, it's like, oh, you know, your heart is at the left side, I believe. And then, you know, yeah, so, you know, like, so John was telling me, like, why do you guys want to do the anthem? Yeah. But if you are still single, you have to tell us you are single, you know, by doing this, to be by the right. So I mean, so when you invite friends, you know, to your house, you can tell by this. Oh, he's married. Okay, it's fine.
Oh my God, it's like a dream.
We look at wedding.
Yeah, Susanna.
What if you're dating somebody? Would you?
You're still not married.
Okay.
Yeah, except maybe you want to show you're almost getting married or you're engaged or something. Yeah, but you know things are changing now. You know, if you have your rings, oh, he's married. You know, but this, you know, used to be a way of showing identity. You know, to identify that I'm part of you guys. I'm single. I'm part of you guys. I'm married or something. You know, that's yeah. And of course, there are others. There are many others. Like if you're fighting your friend, you know, you're angry at someone, you know. So I can go to your house and say, and maybe pass by you. You know, like, oh. Yeah, you have a question.
Mine's kind of different, but I was interested in the patterns on the green garment. Is there like meaning ascribed to pattern that isn't?
No,
like
actually,
manual
just
patterns?
ask the person to make it this because, like, just to look like the map of Nigeria. I mean, sorry, the flag of Nigeria. So, like, green, white, green. So it depends on what you want. There are different patterns, you know. Even this, I mean, this is not like the only pattern. It depends on what. Maybe if you tell the teller, just give me anyone, they can just do anything. But if you want maybe to have maybe like more brown, more yellow or something, it depends on you. So those guys who do it are like excellent, you know, and all this, you know.
But it's more of like a stylistic thing than a
Sure.
conventional.
Sure. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So I have a few questions. I'll ask two or three of them, a couple of them, see if other people want to jump in before I ask them all. So one is about the word that I associate with it is ashobi, the uniform thing.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's a Yoruba thing, but it's a very West African thing in many, like
Yes.
at weddings, at funerals,
Yeah.
sometimes at political rallies, like politicians will
Yes.
create wax prints that are
Yes.
that are meant for ashobi. Can you say anything about how that relates to this, or does it relate to it?
It does, yeah. So for example, if you have a wedding, okay, the bride and the groom might, so I wore this with my wedding, my bride also wore this color, this material, and she had something like this for Europe, okay? Now, anybody from our family will also wear something similar, the color and all that. Now, if, assuming my friends from high school are all coming, they can decide to be in all green, like what Stephen is wearing, maybe having that same type, maybe 10 of my friends from high school. Maybe some friends from elementary school that were in elementary school many years ago, like, oh, let's have yellow. They all have yellow. So they all sit together as a group. Say, oh, you group, you wear yellow. What's, oh, we are from elementary school. Oh, okay. You guys are in green. Oh, we're high school. So people do that like Ashrebi. Okay, this is for this group, this is for this family. We are, this is who we are. Now, maybe I had friends from maybe my undergrad, they will have maybe another color. But of course, the colors won't be like so different. So if you're having your wedding in Yoruba culture, you tell them, okay, my color is maybe gold and brown. So anybody coming will have like something close. But then they will have the same exact, so what Stephen is wearing, exactly the same. Exactly. Like you won't be able to recognize that, please, what's your name? What's your name? Because they're all in exactly the same, kind of clothing. So they have a group. This is this group, this is that group. But then the Ashrebi usually, so for my wedding, for example, my parents and my bride's parents also dress exactly the same way. So you won't be able to recognize, please, who is whose mother, because they are all in the same clothing. So you say, okay, this is bride's mother, groom's mother. So that is Ashrebi. So the brides and groom's dad also will be in exactly the same.
So it's very interesting because the word pronounced not quite correctly. So in Igbo land, they call it Ashobi. Even in Sierra Leone, where I was a Peace Corps volunteer, they call it Ashobi.
Oh, okay.
And I'm just curious, I don't know whether
because
the practice was everywhere and the linguistic term traveled later, or whether the practice was Yoruba and people adopted it across West Africa.
Yeah, I think so, because Ebi means family in Yoruba language, and Asho is this. So maybe it's from Yoruba. Yeah, so people do that a lot. I'm sure, like you said, in political rallies, so like during when Nigeria was preparing for the elections, in fact, the candidates actually, so Nigeria has 250 ethnic groups. So if you're going to visit a state to campaign, you have to choose a dressing that is native to that state. So in America, you probably just have your suit, you go all over the country. But if I'm a politician, if I'm not Yoruba, I have to probably dress this to kind of identify with people, like vote for me, Because so when they see you dress, you're like, oh, you're dressing like we would normally dress, If I go to another ethnic group, I dress exactly the way they dress. So some of these politicians go to like different states and they have to have different dresses, different clothing.
Not only that, they will distribute the wax prints of themselves to the women in advance to ask them to sew them before they come so they can dance wearing their prints.
True. Yeah, like the governor, there was an election in Osun State like last year, and they had the image of the person running, on the garment, and then they would distribute like people. So people, everybody will go there with the pictures of maybe like Dr. J, like, oh, Jen, oh, I see your picture, like your pants, your shirt, everything. You have the print of the picture. So they do that a lot just to show that, we identify with this person and want him to win. So they do that a lot with dressing. And then you also, during the campaign, you come maybe with your own image or print, on the clothes. So, yeah,
Can you put up the picture of the vice president and then go back to the one with the men in the hats?
Okay.
So stop. Look at him and then go back to your examples of the hats earlier.
Okay.
So there. So is that Awolowo there on the bottom?
Correct, yeah.
And so is the vice president trying to channel Awolowo?
Exactly, because it's actually related to him. I don't know if you know. This man's
Tell them who he is. Maybe some people don't know.
Okay, so Awolowo is one of the founding fathers of Nigeria. Those that like fought for independence, and his image is on the 100 naira notes. Sorry, 100 naira, like 100 dollars. So yeah, the 100 naira notes. So his image is there. He's a Yoruba person. Actually died some
Decades ago.
Yeah, he died in 1987. So his granddaughter is the wife of the current vice president. So, and they're from the same state, actually, Ogun State. So, in fact, you're correct, he's actually trying to emulate, because he tried to run for president several times, but he was never a president. But a lot of Nigerians see him as, very intelligent and someone who would have been the best president of Nigeria, like someone actually said, so one of the politicians. So he dresses like this. If you check the 109 notes, you find this exact hat. So the vice president is trying to do something similar, just to kind of show that, okay, you know what, he's an icon. I want to dress, I want to wear my hat to look close to what he used to have. So all these things have like semiotic implications.
And abetiaja is for king.
I mean, you can wear a betiaja, but usually, like, if you remember the picture of the king, like this particular king just loves to wear this particular type of like a betiaja. So he's late now, actually. Died last year. So he always likes to, wear this. So that's just like his own style. Okay. Yeah, Suzanne.
I think I remember my sister's husband on the traditional wedding.
Yeah.
He wore a hat like that too.
Correct. Yeah, people do that. Like they wear. If you're having your wedding, you can choose any type. Like there's no law or rule that says you must wear a particular. I just chose this because I just thought it was okay. But generally, my observation is that people either wear this type or that type for very, very important events. This one looks like a casual, and this one is not something you find around. But yeah, a lot of you don't find it. But for this Origia and Abitiaja, you find people using that for like very important events. Yeah. But then politicians choose their own style, like maybe the design, they have, and they just stick with the design. So once you see the design, you have to say, that is the governor of, maybe Rhode Island or something.
Victor, I can't see what your design is.
Oh, okay. What's the design? I don't even know. Yeah, so there's nothing like special because I'm not really a politician, so. Yeah, so sometimes you just tell the tailor, just anything. Just do anything that you feel is the best. Because I don't know, what do I know? Compared to someone who like sews clothes, who has been doing this for years. So they know probably the best pattern, but this is not really a significant pattern. But assuming I was like running for governor or something, then I might want to stick to this and then I'll say, let all my hats look exactly like this. So if you want to show solidarity, I support Victor for governor, maybe Rhode Island, you probably, try and get something like this and then you can like support me, maybe come to my rally and then wear something like this just to show that you're supporting my campaign. So politicians do that a lot. Like when you go to rallies, you have to like observe what's going on because those like, for example, when some of these politicians were campaigning, even those who went with them, maybe the governors of other states, were actually dressed in this exact same way with them. Like they all dressed in the same. I don't know if I should call that a shred dinner, because it's not really a family, but it's like dressing by a group of people to show solidarity and support for the person who is running. Because if you dress in a way that is different, it's like, why are you guys not dressing like, are you not supporting me? That's enough, is enough reason to show that you're not supporting them. If you're my friend, I'm running for president, you don't dress, let's dress together to show that we are. Something like that. So, yeah. Question.
Would you say that's more like anko? Like you're
Correct. Yeah, anko, they call it anko. It's called anko, like we are, bonding, we are one. So yeah, so it's very interesting. So when you go to an event, in fact, usually when you go for an event, when you want to go for an event, you have to ask, please, what's the color? What's the dress code? You have to, because you don't want to appear like, hey, everybody's in white, I'm in red. Oh, sorry, I'll be back, You have to probably return. Yeah, because everybody will look at you and say, who is this stranger? Who is this person? Like, who? It's just, nobody will, they won't ask you to leave, but you will know, all eyes will be on you, like,
You touched on it implicitly, but I guess that I can relate my last two questions into one. And that is the way in which dress is not only signals or indexes, things like married or part of a family or political stature or something like that, but class, right?
Sure.
As someone who spent a long time in Nigeria, one of the things, not just Nigerians, everyone everywhere, but Nigerians are spectacularly good at it, using clothing to signify class and wealth,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
So say more about that, but then also the second part of the question is, could you do a similar kind of analysis of, I don't know what to call them, cosmopolitan clothes, Western clothes? If you spend time hanging out at tailors, they make these things, but they also make, senator is what made me think of it, right?
Yeah.
Is there a whole world of Yoruba clothing, semiotics, that's like sort of, not traditional?
Yeah, for example, I know like people use this Ankara or some of these materials for even suits, like men's suits. Like now you find people doing that, like trying to, leave the normal, like usual pattern of suit, like using this too. And I know like Kente in Ghana too is also used to make suits, like even for weddings. Yeah. So you find that, and then trying to see. Yeah. So I know because now when we talk about weddings, my focus is on traditional weddings, Yoruba weddings. But of course, like if you are maybe Christian or Muslim, you still have to go to your place of worship. So people like wear suits in that context. But again, they still try to use some of these materials to make the suit. And of course, it's only the bride and the groom wear that, like the suit and the wedding gown. But others will still wear something of this. And then on the issue of class, I think because so this lace is, I don't even know if it's expired, I forgot the price now, but it's expensive. So there are different grades. So those who know clothing know that, okay, if you wear a particular grade, maybe of lace, you're probably showing class. There are some lace materials that are cheap. Now, those who know about clothing will say, oh, it's wearing a very cheap lace. They'll know. Now, I can't really know because I'm not like a professor of clothing, but I know many people are able to tell. And of course, if you go for an event, for example, this example of Ankara, where is it? The example of Ankara, for example, so Ankara, for example, so these types of clothing are also worn, to events. So it's a way also to show class. So if my friend is having a wedding, if I wear this, it's probably to show class. But if someone wears this, you won't be sent away. But again, it will kind of show that you are that your class is different. So people know that, but nobody will say anything. But the kind of dressing you have, and if you wear this, it shows that you are the top. Or if this is made of this, because this is very expensive. So it shows you, like if you remember the man I showed, even this woman, everything is made from this. Everything. Now, she's probably richer than I am because, mine is not made from this. So if both of us are in any event, they will pay more regard to this because this is super expensive and she uses this for everything. Euro, it shows you're at the top. So it's used to show class and status. Yes, Susanna.
Once again, at my sister's wedding, we had the family had two outfits. So I know my sister walked in with her ashoke. And I think, ashoke, and the family also had ashoke. Is that like a way to show that we were like?
Yeah, because it's a family thing.
The main.
Correct. Yeah, because you don't want to leave the bride and groom away, and then you are a family. So if your daughter or your son is having a wedding, even the aunt, the uncle, the father, the mom, or anyone that wishes to say, you know what, I knew when Hamila was a baby, so I'm like a mother or a father. So you can also join. People do that a lot. I took care of you when you were 2 years old. So you kind of recognize that, I'm old enough to I'm your parent, in fact. I'm your parent. So they also come in that, So at the end of the day, you won't even recognize who is your biological father or mother. You don't know. Because many people are trying to show, support. So people do that a lot. Yeah, and I know, by the way, I'm not trying to advertise, but I know I was asking someone, I was like, where do they sell this? I know some of you were telling me they sell it at Portuguese or something. One store. There are some stores where they sell this at Rhode Island, so if you're interested, you can pick one. If you need any advice.
Any more questions? Well, help me thank Victor again.